Martin Wallace's Brass is an involved economic and route-building game set during the early days of the Industrial Revolution in Britain's Lancashire county. You're an entrepreneur who wants to use technology to make money, and during the game, players will construct cotton mills, ports, coal mines, ironworks, and shipyards. But construction is only the first step. You also need canals and railroads to connect energy sources to industries, and industries to sales locations. Complicating all of this is your constant need for money, which will lead to loans as you try to permanently boost income. Brass has inspired other game designs, including Brass Birmingham, which became the #1 game on BGG in 2023. And that's why Brass has been inducted into the BoardGameGeek Hall of Fame for 2025.
Brass is one of my absolute favorite economic strategy games of all time, and Brass puts you in Industrial Revolution England in the 1800s, in which you are going to be trying to compete with your opponents to build out various industries throughout the different cities in England and try to connect them via either canals or railways, depending on which era you're in. The fact that there are two separate eras really forces you to kind of change your strategy on the fly with the cards that you have in your hand, so that way you can try to put the best buildings out at the right time in the most opportune moments, so that you can both increase the amount of points you're going to score, but of course also try to increase your income, which will allow you to take more actions that are more meaningful in the later part of the game. The other part of the game that I really enjoy is the closed economy of the different resources that are in the game, namely the coal and the iron. The timing as to when you put out a certain industry at what cost, and how are you going to get your industry to flip so that it can score you points as well as your income, becomes very, very tight and tense. Sometimes you can place out an industry that will either help or hurt your opponents in a certain way in that kind of competitive Euro style game. So timing in this game is of the utmost importance as to when you can get yourself into a position that'll be strategic for yourself. The last part of the game that I really, really enjoy is the tight economy of the actual money in the game. How much money you spend in a given turn dictates what turn order you're going to be in. And so if you can time it just right and take a turn where you're paying the least amount of money, you'll be the first to go on the very next turn. So sometimes you can go back to back, and that can be critical and huge at pivotal moments of the game when you really want to go first, going into the very next turn when you have an opportunity. So all in all, I really enjoy Brass. If you've never played it before, I highly recommend it.
I think Brass is really important to the hobby and why I love it so much. It's the best example of a hand management system that is really accessible to all kinds of players. It's certainly a great economical gaming experience, and I love breaking out poker chips. But I think that Brass, for me, it's really special because I love it at 4 players. The system is really tight, and particularly with Lancashire, it's brutal near the end of that game. It's probably the purest example I have in my collection of multi-use cards. Every time I get a new hand of cards, I look at those 8 cards and I say, what am I going to do to burn one of these cards to take an action to either take a loan or develop the tiles on my mat or to build an industry somewhere on the board. The toughest decisions of a game maybe that I have when it comes to hand management mechanics. And so as a tool and introduction to other kinds of games like it, I love using Brass for that. I'm also so impressed that the game only has 1 map, and that map continues to be interesting. A lot of games now, when they have route building built into it, they have like a new map that comes out every year. Brass has 1 map, and that map still works, which is crazy to me. So I'll break out Brass anytime I can. Again, I prefer Lancashire, but I'll play any of them. One of the few games that I can really get into and deliver on a 2-hour experience that really is just a roller coaster of highs and lows.
Martin Wallace's Brass is an amazing game that really challenged the concept of resources. That you made a building that had resources available, but they were not yours anymore. Anyone could take them. And this is truly the first time that I've seen this mechanism in the game like this.
And we played Brass for the first time at a con, and I loved it. We played the old version, looking like it does, and I fell in love. And I was like, I need to get this game. And I got home. And the next day, The Kickstarter for this and Brass Birmingham, which both are two of my favorite games of all time, just appeared the day after we get home. And just felt amazing. I was like, oh, this is just like the best coincidence ever. And these two games might be like together the most played games we have of a game of this weight. I love this. I love Brass Birmingham. And I would love a third game in this series as well. That would make me happy because these are fantastic games.
Is there anything that hasn't been said about Brass? The 2007 Martin Wallace masterpiece is possibly the cleanest, sharpest, most all-around perfect shared incentives game in the hobby. Many have tried to copy its template, but none have been able to capture Brass's special sauce. The magic lies in Brass's economy, which can seem impenetrable at first. A Eurogamer like me might try to control all the aspects of the game's supply chain, like maybe I'll build a mill to make cotton, but also build a port to buy the cotton off myself. Yeah, that's not going to work out. Because the key is not to build a port after you've built your own mill, it's to build the port after someone else builds a mill. The game really wants you to anticipate and react to everyone else's needs. And the moment you realize this essential truth about Brass is the moment the game explodes with rich possibilities. It becomes an economic game of chess that's so addictive and so fun. And honestly, it has a pretty small rule set too. When I dove into the hobby in 2014, Brass was already a mainstay in the top 15 games of all time. But as flashier titles hit the marketplace, Brass's quaint art style kind of fell out of step with the hobby, and by 2018 it had dropped to its lowest rank since it was first published. Luckily, Roxley revamped Brass's entire look with a dark, brooding, and honestly iconic visual overhaul. This thrust Brass onto the radar of a new generation of gamers who immediately fell in love with the Brass system, so much so that its sister game, Brass Birmingham, took over the #1 spot on the BGG charts. The game's renaissance is a fun story, but it's a significant one too. It's a reminder that Brass is not just an achievement of game design, but a testament to the power of theme and art direction too. These things matter and can elevate an exceptional game to a timeless one. From its presentation, to its gameplay, to its depth, to its influence on the industry, Brass is exactly what you want in a Hall of Fame game. Its art style may be full of soot and stains, but trust me, Brass is truly flawless.
Thank you to all the contributors who helped make this video, and thank you for joining us in celebrating these incredible games and designers who have shaped the hobby we love. For more details and to explore even more amazing games, visit BoardGameGeek.com.